Cool. Well, hello, everyone. Thank you for being here. This is the February 2023 Klamath Film member meeting. If this is your first time with us, though we know just about everyone here. We're a nonprofit film organization. It's been around for about 12 or 13 years now, based in Klamath Falls. We help out with film productions in the area with location scouting and casting calls and permitting. We do these monthly networking opportunities. We host an annual summer film camp for kids. And we are the ones who put on the annual Klamath Independent Film Festival in September. Tonight we have two special guests that will be joining us in about 10-15 minutes. They worked on a film together that ended up winning an award at our film festival last year. So they made a film called Because We're Family, shot in Portland. And it took first place for best feature film. But we have some other things that are going on, and I'll wait for Anthony to get back for those specifically. But we have a couple of things. Cassie can speak to this better than I can, but we every year, right before the Academy Awards, we do a screening of the nominated short films. So we always do a block of the live action and the animated films. We're still trying to lock down the theater for that right now, but we'll announce that very, very soon. We usually have trivia type of events and giveaways. It's fun because everyone sees the big blockbusters before the Oscars happen, but then they have these whole categories that you never see any of the short films. And so it's just kind of forgotten. So it's yeah, so there's animated as well as live action. There's also a documentary block, but if we included that, it's like a 6-hour showcase. So we usually just do live action and animated. But we are working on locking down an exact date and time for that. We will announce it on the website when we get to that point, but probably mid-March. I think it's March 12th when the Oscars take place. So we usually do it a day or two before. That will be someplace here in town. We also have some job offers, and I'm not sure if this is something that you'd be interested in, but Nick Alexander Films is looking to hire either part-time or full-time a cinematographer and video editor here. They do a lot of commercial work, some narrative film work as well, but there is a job posting up about that. So yeah, it's you would be able to see it on screen if Ecamm and Zoom were cooperating tonight, but they are not doing so. There's also a job opportunity I just heard about today, Wind Broadcasting, which is over on Oregon Avenue. They're in the process of updating all of their radio stations to a new operating system, and they need to hire someone who knows, who is tech savvy, who can work on computer software updates for their studios. So that is of interest to anyone there looking to hire in the immediate for a tech manager / IT person. Yeah, so in addition to the Nick Alexander Films job that's currently up, Wind Broadcasting is also looking for a tech person. So I can forward that information on to you and you can pass it on. And then what did I put in there? Oh, I can't talk about all of it, but I can talk a little bit of it. We have a feature film that's going to be shooting in Klamath Falls later this year. A multi-million-dollar budgeted feature film is planning to come here. That means extras hired locally. That means local crew being hired. That means locations where they will pay for use of a location. They need a number of places, and we are working with the screenwriter and the director to find all of the locations that they're going to shoot. We'll have more information about it later. It's called School Bus Head, or SBH is the name of the film. It's I've read the script. It's a psychological thriller / horror film with some supernatural elements. Reminded me a lot of, like, if you remember the film The Cell with Vincent D'Onofrio and Jennifer Lopez, it has some of those similar elements to it. Also maybe a little bit of, say, like a Lawnmower Man type vibe, a little bit, but it's an interesting story. It came about actually written from Klamath Film's perspective, or Klamath Falls' perspective, because the screenwriter of it came to our film festival. and had such an amazing time at our film festival that he spent the past year or so writing a story about Klamath Falls. Of course, he'd have to go to like a horror, like murder and spree film to detail our town. But hey, you know, we'll take what we can get, right? And had some supernatural elements. We just had such a blast at our film festival that he wants to now make a film here, and it's got a multi-million-dollar budget, which means that anytime that a film is shooting outside of Hollywood, the majority of that money is getting spent in our community. So it's not just we end up with a great cultural thing at the end of the day that we can say, hey, I know where that was shot, but it's a huge economic boost as well. And that's a big mission of what we do, is to, you know, try to increase film production in our community. So happy to see that our film festival is working towards developing that. Yeah,
The historical buildings are part of that.
potentially. There's a whole laundry list of locations that we need to find for the production. I need a old rural gas station, which is a great one in Berlin. They need an auto wrecking yard. They need a mobile home park. They need some different highway settings in rural areas. They need a downtown area. So it'll all come together, I hope. But the plan is maybe sometime this fall, cameras will start rolling. So that's super exciting. Last time we had a feature film shoot here was in 2018. So it has been a while. I see at least one of our guests has joined us. Hi, Angela. Are you with us?
I am. I'm just turning my camera on here. Hang on one second.
No worries.
I'm sure Alyssa will be here in just a second.
Fantastic. Hello.
How are you?
I'm doing great. Great to see you again.
Nice to see you too. Look at you guys got a nice spread going on there, huh?
And we're at a golf course that also has a really cool brew pub here in Klamath. So
And
yeah.
Tired golfers.
Yeah, I do have to, you know, as we get rolling here, Angela, though, give you a little bit of crap, because the month after our film festival, I was in Portland for the Portland Film Fest, and I went to your screening of Because We're Family, and Victor and his family was there, but I didn't see Christine, I didn't see you, I didn't see Alyssa.
really? Did you stay for the Q&A?
I was there, and there was just Victor was the only one that I saw from the film that was in there.
Oh, you know what? I think what it was, you probably went the first weekend,
Okay.
and we were in Chelsea. Because we had Chelsea and Portland started at the same time, and we were in the Chelsea Film Festival too. So Christine and Alyssa and I went to New York for Chelsea,
Okay.
and then we did the second weekend at Portland.
Because I was like, why would you have a screening at a film festival when the filmmakers don't bother to show up for their film?
Yeah, no, we were there the second weekend, and it was really fun, and we had a great audience. But yeah, the first weekend we were in Chelsea, and we had a whirlwind October.
Well, we sure appreciate you coming down to Klamath and being part of our film festival last year. That was wonderful. So, and the fact that you stayed for all 3 days too, not everyone does that. So that's very appreciated.
Oh no, we had a blast, and you guys were so gracious, and it was super fun. So thank you.
So we were just kind of getting rolling with our meeting. I know Alyssa's going to join, and we may have a few others join into the Zoom call as well. But Angela, this is kind of what we do every month, is get together for a networking opportunity with local filmmakers and film fans. Talk about upcoming events, any sort of announcements, anything we may have going on. And then we always have a guest join us every single month, just to kind of have a very casual chat about their experiences, what they've done in the industry, how they got into it, any funny behind the scenes stories, any advice you want to share. And with that, hi, Alyssa. Hello, welcome back.
Hi.
Great timing. We were just about to go through introductions for the folks who are here and then jump in with the two of you. So fantastic timing. Do you want to talk about the Oscar shorts thing, or is it still kind of TBD?
It is location. I wanted to ask you about it.
Oh, okay.
So,
Okay, we can talk about it afterwards.
Mark
Okay.
the calendar still.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. With that, I guess for our guests, we'll get to Angela and Alyssa in just a moment, but we can just kind of go around and introduce ourselves to our guests. So first of all, I'm Kurt Lidke. I'm the Klamath Film Feb chair. I'm the videographer for Klamath Film College is my day job, also a filmmaker, commercial drone pilot. And I worked in Hollywood for about 12 years before I moved to Klamath.
Hey, sorry, Angela and Alyssa, good to see y'all. The angle's kind of weird, it's hiding behind Kirk, but thanks for being here. I am Kathy, I'm the director of Klamath Film. Super nice to be here. And Alyssa and Angela, thank you so much for your time. And sorry, I kept saying Christine in my emails. I literally was being,
So-
I was like, she's literally signing Angela and saying Angela the whole time, and I just connect.
I was wondering why it was.
I think it's because that Gmail address has Christine's name on it first,
Oh.
so it's not uncommon. We get that.
You know, my email address at exec was Kurt for a long time and Kurt for a long time, so I get it. I'm right there with you.
There's a mic over by you there.
We didn't hear anything that he said.
Oh, okay, let me turn the volume up on him then. Three, microphone, mic, okay. Okay. Can we try it again? No?
No.
Okay, can you just make sure that it's plugged in the back?
My name is Anthony. I have a film production company. We could be looking perfect. Right.
Take 47.
Yeah.
There we go. Check, check, check. Or can you hear me now?
We hear you when you're on that side. It's like for some reason the other table side is the void.
Okay.
I'm Chuck Edson. I'm just a designated old guy on the board. Passive activist, finally at 77 became an active social activist.
Nice.
And
Yeah,
About
you have to
full
say
food?
hi.
Hi, I'm Shauna. I'm just visiting and checking out the group, and I'm just a big fan of independent films, and I live here. And I'm excited this group exists.
The perfect number.
Yay!
And then Nina, hello Nina, thank you for being with us again.
Hi, guys. My name is Nina Oberlin. I am a production designer, animator, filmmaker. I actually live in Lafayette, Oregon. I'm not in Klamath Falls, but I am a board member for the Klamath Film.
Nice.
And hello Lori, good to see you as always.
Yeah, I'm Lori. I'm volunteer Klamath Film member. I've been at the check-in desk, so you guys saw me at KIF last year.
Oh yeah, we met.
Probably asked you a lot of questions as well. But yeah, I've been working, doing a couple short films and currently working on one that's another stop motion. So we'll see how it goes.
Nice.
So thank you, Alyssa and Angela, for being here. Now, Alyssa, you've been a part of our festival previously, before Because We're Family, right?
Yeah. One of my previous features, I think I've had a couple of things other smaller other things screened there as well, but the other thing was my feature Seaside, which was a few years before Because We're Family. Yeah.
I think that one was like 2017 or 2018.
Yeah, and that one, I mean, I don't know how to say it other than just like pure. I mean, part of it was intuition and luck that our director found Ariana DeBose, who recently won an Oscar for West Side Story, and she's the star of that. So that's her first feature film. And actually, I think our feature film like festival debut was you guys. Now that I'm thinking about it.
That happens a lot since we're the only ones that exclusively do made in Oregon. So
Yeah.
if there's anything that was made in Oregon that has some hype behind it, it usually ends up in Klamath.
Definitely. Well, I've had a very like every time I love your festival, and every time I've been there, it's been such a fun time. And I mean, that was part of me. I know Angela, when I was like first describing to you, I'm like, no, we have to go. It'll be really fun. It's like a family. It's like what our movie is like, but a festival.
Aw.
That's a great. Oh my gosh, I'll take that.
You need to make that your official.
We should
Yeah.
make it our official.
Our big focus, or at least Cassidy is the one in charge now, but I was running things before Cassidy, and our big focus was we're not going to take ourselves too seriously, because I've been at more than enough film festivals where it's like high society type, and no, you have to respect art at all times. And we want to celebrate the art form, but at the same time, we want to make sure people have fun at our festival. And that is a really big hope and goal, is that people walk away feeling like they had a good time. We want to create
Angela, I think do you want to tell them about one of our other experiences?
Yeah, so the festival shall remain nameless, but we did have a very bougie experience, and Alyssa and I and Christine have been talking about making a short film out of it. Basically, we were thinking of the title "Snubbed," because
Where we basically get kicked off the red carpet.
we basically got elbowed off the red carpet for sure, and it was not nearly as entertaining an experience as being at Klamath. It was actually kind of stressful. So we know what you're talking about, and we're glad you do it your way.
I for a while I lived about 3 blocks away from Grandma's Chinese Theater, so I've experienced the red carpet crowd more than enough to realize how fake and phony all of that stuff is.
Yeah.
We try to make sure that the filmmakers have fun, the filmmakers feel like we're celebrating their films properly, and that everyone walks away feeling like they made a bunch of new friends at the end of the weekend. I feel like that's the big goal.
Oh, absolutely. And I feel like your movie and just your energy totally embodies that too. Like y'all are the perfect people to have at a film festival, because you do make everything so fun and you participate. And so it was wonderful having the Because We're Family there. I mean, it really totally added to our film festival, I think. And I mean, I'm just curious because, and maybe I asked y'all this at KIF, but like y'all just seem so close, like, and it made the movie so cohesive and like fun to watch. And like, I just so enjoyed Because We're Family, getting to watch it multiple times through the process and everything. So how did you guys even like come about and, get to know each other for people here?
Christine, Tyler, and I met 12 years ago now. We were taking an acting class at the Ruskin School in Santa Monica. It was a Meisner technique class. It was a 2-year class. If anybody is familiar with Meisner, you might as well go to therapy with people for 2 years. It's really that intensive. So you get to know each other pretty well. And our friendship just blossomed. We all kind of knew we were going to work together on something. We just weren't sure how it was going to land. And Christine's mom died and my mom died in the same year. And that was the impetus for me to write the script. And then we, over time, we started developing it into a stage play. So we traveled everywhere with stage play. We went to Edinburgh. We did a full production in Los Angeles. It got a production in Denver. So just that amount of time spent together on stage, off stage, being legitimately friends with each other.
Friends and most the characters that they actually are in the film. So that too. So they were getting a lot of this like working together. Yeah.
Yeah. And then we had wanted to make it a film. So we reached out to Kevin Ragsdale, who's a producer down here. He does mostly horror, but he knew Alyssa from Here a While, from when Alyssa did Here a While, introduced us to Alyssa, and it just all kind of went off like fireworks. The minute we met Alyssa, she just became part of that family too. Like we all get along so well. And that is not to say that we don't fight like cats and dogs, because we absolutely do. But it's just, we have the most fun together. And then we have the most stressful fights together. So
I would say
honestly,
that's true.
yeah, it's a complete family. So what you see on screen, it's special because it's years in the making to have those relationships, I think.
So you did walk away with one of our one-of-a-kind trophies at our festival, but and I know that the film also showed at Portland Film Festival, because I was at the screening for that. Has it made the rounds to any other festivals?
Sorry, I just have to say this because I don't even remember who I was talking to like last week, but I was talking about our trophy. We love our trophy. And like, I was just like being like, this is the most awesome thing of any festival ever, that whole thing. So if you can never stop doing that, please keep doing it because it's amazing.
100%.
Other than that, yeah, we did. So before we screened at Klamath, we screened at Dances with Films in LA. And then we screened with you guys, and then we screened with Portland, and then we also screened last fall with Heartland International Film Festival in Indianapolis and Chelsea Film Festival in New York City.
Cool, great. So
Yeah.
Shauna asked what was the trophy, and I'm not sure who gets to hold it or if you like rotate. But on my laptop there, and I know those on Zoom can't see it because we're having some connectivity issues between Zoom and Ecamm, but there is a group shot of Angela, Alyssa, Christine, and I'm sorry, I'm blanking on his name. Is it Tyler?
Tyler.
Yeah.
Along with one of the members of Southern Cascade Woodcrafters Guild, Bill Reed. And since 2020, with our festival, we decided that since we're the Made in Oregon Film Festival, we should do something that embodies Made in Oregon. What's more Oregon than wood products? So there's an amazing group of local wood craftsmen here that get together. And so every summer, once we determine our winners, we show them the films and then they make our trophies. So every first place trophy is a totally one-of-a-kind art piece that is specific to the film.
Oh, that's neat.
So, films like theirs may go to 5, 10, 15, 20 festivals. And maybe, you walk away with a couple of plaques and trophies. And it's always awesome, to win and get recognized like that. A lot of the filmmakers that we talk to, they may end up with a closet full of plaques, but when they get the one-of-a-kind art piece from us, that's what goes on the coffee table.
Yeah.
So since their film is about dealing with a parent that just was cremated and how the siblings are coping with all of that, and I won't give away the spoiler plot aspect of it, but it's a giant urn that actually opens up and has a little coffee cup on top of it.
That's awesome. Thank you.
It's the best. It's the best trophy. And we have it in our production office, is the most neutral place to have.
On the top shelf.
On it.
Glad to hear it.
Where's a good place to start interrupt, see the film?
I was wondering the same thing.
Yeah, the question is where can we see the film now?
So I mean, the trailer is out wide. We are literally like this week, we've signed a deal to work with a distribution consultant who's going to help us make a deal. We've had a couple of offers already. I mean, we've had several offers already on the film to put it out. None of which, to us, it's really important because of the holiday aspect. We want to time the release with the holidays, which is why we kind of skipped over last year. And then, so now we're just sort of getting into it to try to get a holiday release at some point, probably streaming, but for this year, is sort of what we're looking at. Yeah.
That's actually a pretty common story that we hear from a lot of people that participate in our festivals. We may do the world premiere, or maybe we're the second or third screening, and then the filmmakers spend the next 2 years in negotiations to try to get the film theatrically released or on a streaming service. It can just, when you finish the film, you're really just kind of starting the process. It's not really the end of it.
Exactly. I mean, our fingers are really crossed that we're expediting the process and that we're going to be released this fall at some point. I mean, obviously our film takes place from October, Halloween through Christmas. So a release anytime in there, I think, would be what we would just be ecstatic about. But yeah, we're working on it.
You can wave hi if you want. That's
Hi,
Tyler.
Oh,
And I don't know if you guys know, but Tyler, who plays Mitchell in the film and is one of our producers, we're not married yet, but we live together, so wandering up to bring me some coffee.
I
So
mean, you guys have been engaged since before we started shooting.
we've been engaged since the dawn of
Well,
Yeah.
congratulations, either way.
Thank you. We just rather put our money into trying to make films than have a big wedding that everybody will forget 2 minutes later. So
That's awesome. Well, that's interesting. Yeah, I hear a lot from like Portland filmmakers about like making films and like putting the films together and everything. And I'm curious if y'all have found that like community with other filmmakers and like putting each other's like I hear a lot about the recycling of the money between different productions and things. So like how do you guys usually like connect with other filmmakers or get kind of those different connections going where you guys are?
that's a total Alyssa question.
I mean, I feel like so I've done like maybe 3 to 5 projects about this size in Portland now. And it's always really hard. It doesn't matter what you're doing, what genre, it doesn't matter. It's hard. But I've found that like I've just developed a lot of relationships over the years. And, at this point, especially with this film, like in particular, I think we had the best crew I've ever had, the smallest crew I've ever had. I mean, I'm saying this to you, and this is like never repeatable. We have like no art department. Literally, the art department was me and Angela and Christine.
Wow.
And
Wow.
costumes.
Yeah.
Like because we got to a point where we decided that we had so little money that we wanted to put it in front of the camera, and we had this conversation where we just said, what are the things, if we had to do them, what are the things we could do? And we were like, well, we can't pick up a camera and make it look good, but what we can do is try to be stylish, like put those to our best efforts. And so we had decided at some point to like completely forego an art department, which meant there was just a lot more pressure on the 3 of us to like for every single thing that we were doing, and I was producing, but I was also ADing. So like there was just a lot of hats being worn through everybody. But at the same time, I have to say that we found like a team that was very nimble and gracious and wanted to be a part of that. So like it wasn't above the first AC to be like, are we okay with seeing that like weird chord in the background? Do we
Yeah.
want to fix that? And it just worked. And we had so much fun. And to the point that like every single person on our crew, at least, sorry, maybe that's an overstatement. I hope and I think every single person on our crew hopes we all work together again. And I think that that's just like how you do it. You have to build those teams of people and that trust. And I think somehow we just got lucky and magical and all those things started working together.
And I think, and to piggyback on that a little bit, I think, we did wear a lot of hats. You're ordering furniture from Wayfair at midnight, like,
to then return it 3 weeks
we
later.
did that. But I think one of the interesting parts about the crew that we had, which there is no better crew you could ever have than the one we had, they really all wanted to be a part of a narrative. Like, I think it was something that they all had, like, a lot of them had been working TV or commercials and things like that. But when they got to come together and be a part of a narrative feature, it was just a passion project. It was just kind of like everybody put a little bit of their heart and soul into it for a lot less money than they deserved. And we just got so lucky. So lucky.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, to me, it's like, I just think back to stories like, there was like a moment, I mean, obviously we have C. Thomas Howe in the movie, which added a lot of stress in some points because we were all doing multiple jobs. But at the same time, like there's a lot of value to that. And at one point there was like a prop we had written into a scene that he just wasn't feeling, and we were all kind of getting stressed about like, oh my God, he doesn't want to use this prop, he wants something else, but he wants us to suggest something, and we're all kind of just standing around talking about it and trying to come up with some solutions. And like, just out of left field, because she was just standing adjacent to where we were, the boom operator is just like, I don't know, what about this? Like, we could just do like the little fortune teller coochie catcher thing. And we were like, that's a great idea. We go back, we pitched to him, he loves it. And now it's like one of the favorite scenes in the movie is like C. Thomas Howell with this little, and I ran down to the basement and made it myself. It was like, but it was so fun, that whole experience of like, we went through that as a team, not as just like one person in one department being like, oh my God, C. Thomas Howell's freaking out about this, what do I do? And I think that that's kind of what we all take away from our film, of the unique and like just heart, and I don't know, but it's just what is to us the heart of the whole thing.
Yeah.
Well, one thing that stood out to me about Because We're Family when we first watched it as a submission was the cinematography in it. So it's interesting that it was kind of a everyone chip in and do your thing on it, because it really came across as very professional looking in terms of lighting and camera work, as a real standout from all the submissions that we had.
Feels like it'd be
There is no words to describe
Yeah.
the magic of Eric Macy and Christopher, who did our lighting, and the conversation and concert that they have with each other, the absolute understanding that they have with each other. Eric is just like, I don't even know how to say it, just a precious human being who like literally just needs a break to put his genius out there. Like, I can't rave enough about Eric.
Yeah, I mean, not only is he an incredibly nice person and a pleasure to work with, but our movie would have been entirely a different movie had we not had him. And we are all like so grateful. I mean, even some of the ideas, like the idea, one of his ideas that like really added to what I think our production value and story is that, you know, when we talked initially, all of us, about like where this story was coming from, and you know, Angela had written it as a stage play, and most of these actors had performed it as a stage play together, and we have a lot of actors and a lot of scenes together. When you're talking about film, and if you're like talking about normal TV coverage, that can get insane. I mean, we don't have enough time for that, we don't have enough money for that, we don't have any of those things. And so him and I worked together to like basically beg a local grip house for a dolly. And it was in the idea that if we had a dolly, it didn't matter like what else we had, we could capture the natural performances of these guys who have been working together for years and on stage in a way that was both cinematic but also allowed for them to move around and do the things they needed to do and not just have to walk into a close-up. So that I think is really what became super instrumental, and him really saying, no, we need this, and he was right.
Yeah, we took a risk staying wide as much as we do, because some people expect that you're gonna push in all the time, that you're gonna have all this coverage with cut to close. And it was just a very conscious decision to say the story is going to be told wide as much as we can, to like give you the, I don't want to say cinema verite, but I almost kind of want to say it, like you're in that room with that family and you're watching what's going on with that family. So you're seeing everybody, and you might not just be locked in on that one person at that one time, unless it's really important to push in on that one person or to come up close on that one person. So we took a little bit of a risk, and but it paid off so much. Like I just think it's got a unique storytelling vibe to it, if I could be so bold.
So I know probably most of us saw Because We're Family at the film festival, but I know Shauna, you didn't, and Anthony and John, I don't remember if you saw it because we didn't. Right. But before we kind of move on to some other things, does anyone here have questions, maybe specifically about their film Because We're Family, before we delve into some other topics?
Angela, I have a quick question. So from going from like the play and then going into the movie? I mean, how do you feel like, did you play the same character and did they evolve with your acting, and like how did that kind of come about? Did you find new like avenues to take your character down, or how did that kind of acting turn out for you? Because it was amazing in the movie. I just love your character so much. It adds so much to the story, and it's just so fun to kind of follow her progression with this grief and everything she's dealing with. So it's really, really interesting.
Oh, thank you. That like means a lot to me because Belly's a hard character. She's more or less the antagonist, and you can do a lot more on stage to drive character development in some ways than you can do in film. And that's just the God's honest truth. Like film, we're seeing it and it's open to interpretation. Taking a journey when you're a live audience member with actors on stage is I think there's more opportunity for an actor to endear themselves to an audience in a theatrical production. That's a weird thing to say, but I honestly do believe it. Of course I had to kill my darlings, and some of my favorite parts of the stage play don't exist in the film, yada yada. But I think where Belly kind of took a little bit more shape was really in the editing bay, because there was a cut that we had early on where we all kind of went, I don't like her right now. Nobody likes her. And what do we have to kind of soften her to make her a more sympathetic character? You remember that, Alyssa, where we kind of went,
oh yeah. It was hard because we were like, I mean, I think it was kind of an oh shit moment for us, because we were like,
yeah.
oh, none of us anticipated this, but now we're all seeing it. Like,
yeah. And that's the beauty of film, where you don't get that with theater, is if they don't like you in theater, they just don't like you. But when you're watching your footage and you realize, no, we could do something about this, because there's other material that we have to kind of craft her into where we want to. So it was definitely, I think Belly became over time a more sympathetic character, because we all knew that we had to craft it
So Angela threw out a term that's common in the industry.
in that.
Oh, sorry. Sorry, we're having some connectivity issues. Bear with us just a moment here.
Okay.
Angela, I do like that you chose that mug.
Yeah, mug that I use in the film.
Yeah.
Okay, let's check. Hello, can you hear me okay? Looks like everyone may have frozen for a moment.
Oh,
But
Well,
Oh, go ahead, Mari.
I was like, I have a question while they're trying to figure it out. So I am wondering, since you were, did theater performance of it for so long, like you really got to be with the character a lot more. Was it actually hard when you're filming to just like it's and some people really like, like if that makes sense?
It makes a ton of sense, and I am the opposite of results oriented actor. I really honestly believe that if it comes out the same way twice, then you're not in the moment, that you're not being present. So it doesn't really necessarily bother me in film to have a limited amount of takes, as long as I'm allowing myself to be there and be in the moment. There were certain things, yeah, like you watch yourself as an actor when you go back on, it's so hard to separate. I had a mentor who said, you watch it the first time and you hate it. You watch it the second time and you hate it a little less. And then you watch it the third time and you can objectively look at outside yourself and what the performance is. So I think that film medium is very exciting in the sense that you do have to kind of nail it in those couple of takes. So the best way to nail it is just to be present and available, and the right take will come. If that makes sense.
Check, check. Can you hear us now?
Yeah.
Okay, good. Sorry about that. We're on a little bit of a weak Wi-Fi signal here, so if we cut out, our apologies in advance. I did want to step back just a second because Angela threw out a term that's common in film, and I want to make sure everyone's familiar with it. When she said "kill your darlings," was anyone aware of heard that before? The idea of it being that whether it's in the writing process or in the acting process, you may have an aspect of the performance or the piece that you're really passionate about. But ultimately, in the course of trying to tell a coherent story, it may not be necessary to tell the story. And sometimes less is more. And so sometimes you have to kill that thing that you're very passionate about and realize, even though I love that scene or I love that aspect, I love that line, it's not necessary in the course of the story. And so you kill that darling that you're passionate about, but it's for the good of the overall project. Does that make sense?
I think maybe a good example from our film, Angela, tell me if I'm wrong about this being the best example, but in the stage play, there was this whole scene with their mother dying, and it's all about the ashes and them dealing with the death of their mother. There's a big dream sequence that happens in the stage play where the mother kind of comes back, and it's like this big dream thing, which was a pretty big aspect of the stage play. But when we tried to convert it to film, it was just like
Weird.
weird and expensive and like all these things that we were just like, we don't think we can accomplish that. And I mean, I feel like honestly, and I think that was probably the biggest darling we crossed out.
Yeah, and that was a hard one. I love that scene. It was the very first scene that I had ever written out of anything that has to do with this movie. And my mentor, Karen Landry Mulkey, who has since passed away, actress, you may have heard of her, she mentored me writing that scene, and it's a funny scene where the mom comes back, but she's 22 and hot, and like in the dream it's like, Mom, why are you hot? But it's and on stage it's really fun and magical.
It was, and to be honest, I saw the stage play in Los Angeles when they did it, like right when we were sort of teaming up, and I remember that being one of my favorite scenes.
Yeah, and then we were just like, it just does not make sense in the context of a film. So we lost that pretty early on, but it did hurt a little bit. I was like, we had $5 million. Could we shoot this? Yeah.
Alyssa and Angela, well, unless someone else had a question, I think we've talked a lot about Because We're Family. I know that was one of your most recent projects, and so it's still kind of near and dear, but can we get kind of background on how you got into the industry? And Alyssa, I know you've done producing, directing, acting, as well as crew work. Angela, I know you've done a lot of stage work as well as some TV and film. How did you end up in the industry?
Go, girl, you go.
Weirdly, I mean, so no, my degree is actually in theater and acting, which is started. And I'm lucky to play, like, I have like the tiny cameo at the beginning of the film as the receptionist, which I still love little cameos when I can. But eventually I was in college and I was going to theater school, and all my friends, most of my guy friends, were like in the film school I was at Point Park University in Pittsburgh, and there was this thing where like literally like every other weekend they were like, oh, we gotta make this short film for our class. You're gonna be in it, right? You're gonna do it. You're gonna act in it, right? And of course I'd say yes, and then we'd do it. And then I would like spend my whole weekend at the mercy of whatever immature 20-year-old dudes were thinking about lenses and cameras and blah 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 and how to make film and blah blah blah. And I just was like, I think other things I also want to do on my weekend. But I mean, I want to do this, but I want to do other things too. And so I eventually just started saying, I'll do it. Like, I'll be in your film if I can like make the schedule and keep it. And I didn't even know at the time that that was like a job. I just was like, I was like, this is pure self-preservation. And so then I started doing that and they were like, happily, yes, we would love for someone to do these things. And then I kind of just started working on both sides of the camera at that point and kind of always have kind of done that since then. And so yeah, I mean that's like really where it's been. I mean, I think one of the things that I love about what I do or what I'm able to do is that I am both like right and left brain. So as much as I'm able to say our budget is this and this is what we can do and we really have to stay within this, I can also say let's think about the most creative solution to what we can do. And so that's kind of what I've been doing. So I've done a mix of acting, producing, mostly producing in the last few years. And I literally just directed my first short film like a couple of weeks ago.
And
Yeah.
that was
And Angela was there.
And Angela, how did you end up in the industry?
so I went to UCSB for my theater degree. And the first thing I ever shot was in the film department up there, and they hired me to play a prostitute, which I was like, this is going to be my life. I'm going to get typecast. I'm either going to be a witch or a prostitute. They wanted to shoot on film, and they loaded the film in backwards. So from that was born a sense of like, how do we do things right? Because that was 3 days of my life that were for nothing. But stage has always been my very favorite thing. I directed a lot of theater. I have had my own stage work, premiered at Center Stage Theater in Santa Barbara, and then I've done a lot of writing and theater directing. We got a little bit into dabbling in film work a few years ago. We did an ill-fated adaptation of a Lee Blessing play that we shot the whole thing, and I just couldn't get the rights to actually do anything with it. So then I learned maybe write your own stuff and then you don't need the rights. So yeah, it's just been a journey as far as getting deeper into film from this perspective, because We're a Family was, the directorial debut and the first script that I really had of my own produced, and hopefully not the last. I mean, I'm working on a sequel.
I was gonna say you're working on a sequel.
Which I want to shoot at the Running Y up in Klamath. So if anybody has, if anybody knows anybody over at Running Y.
That's in part of what we're here for, is location scouting and permits and local cast and crew and equipment and all that. So if you're seriously thinking about it, get in touch with Cassie. We'll do what we can to make it happen.
Yeah, I mean, we're Angela's still working on the script, but A, we stayed at the Running Y when we were there for the festival and loved it. But B, yeah, that is like the whole concept of the sequel is that the family goes on like this big getaway, and yeah, that we've literally had conversations about the Running Y.
Yeah. And we kill another character, but we won't tell you who.
That's also selfishly part of the motivation behind our film festival is we make sure everyone has a good time because we want them to come back and make films here. You would not be the first ones that have said, well, hey, this place is great, we should come back here and make a film. Or they meet someone at our festival and decide that they want to make a film together because of their experience.
Yeah.
Here. So that's the vibe.
I mean, I met Gary Kaut at your festival the first time I was there, and him and I have been friends ever since, and just bounced back and forth. And we still haven't had the chance to work together, but we've definitely tried to give each other opportunities when we can. Yeah.
So I don't want to hog the conversation here. Does anyone here have questions for Alyssa or Angela or Nina and Lori online? If anyone...
I'm curious on the film that you're planning currently. Is it going to be around a holiday as well?
Yeah, at first I started writing it as like a summer getaway because I kind of thought how fun to put this family like in the lake and stuff like that. I had all these visions of like how much trouble can the Pereira family get in wild summer times. And then I sent Alyssa the first few pages, and Alyssa was like, what? We have a niche and we have a direction. Can you come back and can we do this at Christmas? Because it just makes business sense. You know, if we have the success with this film that we really hope that we will have, it makes sense to do that. So yeah, I rewrote.
Dude, I mean, if we made $75 million and then we could pick.
Yeah.
Sure. But no,
right now
we're living in this certain world.
But it's you know, it's fun to explore. People are like, is it a standalone or is it a sequel? For me, in my mind, it's a standalone that is enhanced if you saw the first one. But we also have the opportunity to tackle some different issues in society right now, things that are going on with kids and stuff that, you know, we're kind of interested in exploring. So we'll see. The writing process is still happening.
I mean, I think that the themes from the first film about being like, you know, an older adult dealing with the death of a parent, it's interesting because that was like the overall theme of that first film. The theme of this second film is very much more of the older generation dealing with the younger generation, and those kids who were still dealing with it then, but like now are living through another level of it.
Yeah.
So this is open forum, very casual Q&A. So Anthony or Chuck or John or Shauna or Nina.
My question is, because we're family, in the script, how much time is portrayed to pass?
So the question was, because we're family, how much time was portrayed in the script?
Passed during the script, for example.
Oh, it went literally from the day before Halloween to New Year's Day.
Yeah, I knew.
Awesome.
You should move the mic a little bit closer to you, Anthony, since you talk kind of soft.
Sorry about that.
Because they could hear me fine when I checked out that mic. Anyone else want to chime in on anything? Shauna or Chuck? Or I know, John, you got a mouthful of food.
I'll just add that Klamath Falls has a history of creating trouble.
Creating what?
Of creating trouble. So if that's the goal with the script, you know, that
We are troublemakers.
tells itself. Yeah.
Well, if Alyssa and I were babies, we'd be in matching onesies that say, here comes trouble. So
That is a wonderful image. I love that. But Angela, so when you're thinking about like writing a sequel, or is this just from like, where does that creative spark come from? Is it because you know this family like so well and you're just so ingrained in you? So like when you're doing your daily tasks, you're like, well, what would actually Belly be doing right now and stuff like that? Or is it kind of come from like a different space where like, I'm gonna go on a walk and just think about like what I might want a sequel to be like or something like that. So how does that kind of inspiration strike for you?
I write what I know, honestly. I think it's like one of those things that was the best advice is like, write what you know. So everything that ever inspires me comes from my life. And I have a weird life, you know. I've got an amazingly creative family. My kids are wildly creative and interesting. My family's the same way. So I just lock those little nuggets in my brain of moments in my life that are hilariously funny or weirdly sad or whatever. And then I don't write. I shouldn't even say this because you guys will go, oh my God, did you ever read any script writing book? I don't like to write like a lot of other writers. I just kind of sit down and I just sort of find where the characters take me. I don't know if the character is going to live or die when I start writing. It just, I figure it out as I go, like whatever they're telling me to do. And I know that sounds strangely esoteric, but that's kind of how I find my way through the process. My characters kind of guide me through it. So yeah, I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, totally.
Nina or Shauna, I know you two have been quiet. Do you have anything that you want to add to it, or? Nina, did
I
you?
just been listening. I didn't get to see your guys' film when I was there at the festival. But I love hearing about your guys' journey and the process of making it happen. Because there's so many people who don't understand it's so hard to find like money to do everything that you need to do to make things happen. And if you don't have an art department, finding, having multiple hats, I think that's awesome that you guys made it work regardless of what, what you had. You just did what you could do to make things happen. I think that's awesome.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think that was like a big part of like, I don't know, that's a big thing to me is like as a producer, anything I make to me it's really important that no matter how much money we have, it looks better than what the money we had. And so that's always been like just a self like restriction on it. But to the point that like on the first day of filming, and maybe this added to the tension with C. Thomas Howell, but I got yelled at because I was so intent on, we had this like big shot in the opening scene when they go in with the ashes and the fridge opens up and you see like the inside of the fridge. I mean, what no one would know is that we had literally worked really hard to get sponsors for all of those products that were in there, and they're all Oregon made products. So to me, it was really important that we showcase them because they'd all given them to us for free. They were doing it. Most of them had also given us extra products to help feed our crew. So I was like, it's really important to me that this fridge looks amazing. And so I was ADing. I was also resetting the fridge to make sure that all the things were labeled and that you could see the labels and all these things, which to be honest, no one would ever have in a real refrigerator. But it was like, to me, it was important because just based on principle. And, C. Thomas Howell didn't know what we were doing and yelled from the background because we were taking longer than what we expected. But that was totally worth it. Just to like have that moment of like, I don't know, creating community and like having that moment of like that, like a little extra production value,
It's the best looking fridge you'll ever open.
That it's always great when you can do that kind of payback thing. And a lot of people will work on film sets because they're helping out. But last year I worked on a film. I did like 4 hours of commercial drone work for a film, and I got paid in leftover fried chicken craft services. So you just kind of you do what you can to help out when people need a helping hand sometimes.
Yeah,
And
we
you do it
paid a
because you love
person.
it.
Yeah, we paid a person in pumpkin pies on this movie.
We had so many pumpkin pies from Sherry's Pies, and we had so many left over, like one piece cut out of it, that we paid a person like, you want the pumpkin pies?
We were like, we can use your car on camera, right? And we'll give you all these pumpkin pies. And we literally just returned the car to him with like 17 pumpkin pies stacked in the passenger seat.
It was awesome.
There's a question in the chat from Lori, directed at Alyssa. Wanted to bring up the film Seaside again. So Lori asked, the storytelling with Seaside. It sort of kind of slowly sucks you in and then completely surprises you with a twist. And of course, hashtag no spoilers for those who haven't seen it. But Lori's wondering if you would provide your thoughts on that type of storytelling, or if there's consideration of a prequel, such as to give backstory to the twist ending.
Wow, that's a tough question. I mean, so with that film, that was one of my first films producing feature films. And to be honest, Sam Zaletsky, who wrote that, he was a big, obviously he wrote it and directed it. So there was a lot of what his influence was on that. There was also a lot of that was like what we came up with as we went along. So like I don't know how to say this other than like, for example, in the script initially, when I initially read the script, there was like, it was actually much more graphic, like the sexuality and like a lot of that kind of stuff. And then eventually we ended up deciding that there would be like no real nudity. So that was kind of like a big factor that like shifted things as far as like the perspective of that goes. But I think that the way it was designed was that it would always be like a slow process to like suck you in. But I think, I don't know, the idea of a prequel, I don't know. I don't know if Sam has ever thought about that. I mean, I think to him that the surprise twist was always the biggest, best element of that script. Not to try to speak for him, but I did just talk to him last night about something else. So like I think I understand what he's was going with. But I think it was like it was always kind of determined that what I want here is to develop this thing and then there to be this, oh my God, wait, what? And I think he at least accomplished that. Yeah.
Correct me if I'm wrong in your experiences, but in my time in Hollywood, at least, I always felt like you have a creative story, and if it's successful and they decide let's make a prequel, it's more so of a cash grab to continue this success rather than it is a continuation of a story. You're then trying to build a backstory because, oh, people really liked that project. I mean, even
Right.
some of the really all-time great projects, Star Wars initially was just Star Wars. And then they made episode 4 because Star Wars became Star Wars. And so you had to go out and tell this whole other story to it. But
no, and I mean, I think to speak to that too, you're exactly right. And for us, it's like a little weird because, we, of course, it's weird and bizarre for us to say at this point, like, we were Ariana's first feature film. She came to Oregon, freezed her butt off on the Oregon coast to make that movie. And she's the best thing about the movie. Like, she's incredible. But at the same time, like, we're in this weird position of like, we never knew that she was going to become what she would become. She didn't know she was going to become what she would become. Her people didn't know she would become what she'd become, or the people she didn't even have at that time that now she has. So it's like, we've had a lot of navigating in the post world about how much she can help us promote, what her managers and agents will allow her to help us promote. There's very specific rules about that because we didn't initially think, oh, we need to make like a top end deal with this person about like social media posts and help, because we just didn't, that wasn't where she was at the time. Now, clearly, if she would just post a link to our trailer, we would be making a lot more money. But it's really not that simple. It's just not. So she is supportive. Like, she's always been very nice and supportive. And I loved working with her, and she's amazing and extremely talented. But I also think she's bound by other certain obligations at this point, as far as like helping us promote that little indie movie.
every A-list actor began as an extra in the background of some low-budget film that they don't want anyone to know about or ever see again. So it's just like the reality of the industry. Chuck, did you have something?
Yeah, I was curious where you two live and whether you regularly collaborate and how you go about that. And third, I guess a part of that is I apologize, I'm unfamiliar with your work, but Seaside, is that Seaside Oregon?
Yes.
Well, I'll answer that question just quickly first. Yeah, it is called Seaside after Seaside, Oregon. So the whole script, it takes the first initial couple scenes take place in Portland, but then it shifts to Seaside, Oregon. So we shot mostly in Seaside. Yeah.
And the other question, yeah, I'm Los Angeles based. Alyssa, when I met her, was more Portland based, but she's kind of been all over lately.
I'm in Portland right now. I'm doing a feature up here for the next few months, but in the last year or so, I've been kind of more all over the place, but I don't know, more or less Portland's been my home base since like 2008.
Yeah, and because her family is the first thing we did together. Alyssa just got her first director credit on a short film that Christine, our producer, co-director on Because Her Family, produced. I came down and crewed for them just for fun and giggles, and it was really fun, and that's going to be a really great little short film. And I mean, the plan is to continue to create together and do wonderful things. You know, in the meantime, you take work where you get it, but we, I guess the thing is like, when you find a creative family that you really, really love, you really want to try to figure out how to make more projects with that creative family. And while there's the business side of I'll take this job, I'll take that job, I'll do this and that, the dream is that you can bring your creative family back together again and make more art together, because that's where the fun is.
Definitely.
So do keep in mind, Alyssa, our submission window is now open. So if you finish editing by June 1st, you can submit that for this year's Klamath Independent Film Festival.
I'm hoping right now we're in a little bit of holding pattern because the editor, which is the same editor from our feature, he's not available until next month at least. So I'm holding off on the short film, but yeah, like we're excited. I'm hopeful I'll finish it before then.
Okay. One thing that I always love to ask, because, you know, as people who have worked on films or just film fans, we see the finished product presented to the public. And it's always perfect and flawless and great, but we know on set, sometimes things can get silly, weird, stupid, chaotic, insane, scary. What are some of your favorite bloopers and behind the scenes things, whether it was because we're family or just stuff that's happened on set or behind the scenes, and maybe at the times were crazy, but now you can look back and laugh like, oh, that was so weird when we had to deal with this or that. Like, I'll give you an example. We have a Academy Award winner who grew up here in Klamath, James Ivory. And I remember talking to him a couple years ago when he was in town about he was making a film in India, and on the very first day of filming, his lead actor got thrown in prison. And so he had to quickly scramble and figure out how many shots can we do right now without our lead while we try to negotiate his release from prison. And you know, you can laugh about it now, but at the time it's like, oh crap, what do we do? You know, so have those kinds of situations. Obviously, you know, producers kind of take the brunt of that a lot. So, you know, Alyssa, you may have a few more than you do, Angela, but funny moments, weird moments, odd things that didn't make the final cut that you can recall from projects?
I mean, the first initial thing I'm thinking about, which is something we talk about all the time, about how much we love about even the story Because We're Family, is that so that there's this big Thanksgiving scene, right? And again, remember, I said we have no art department. We have also no one to cook a Thanksgiving dinner. So we had started like days earlier, like trying to meticulously prep certain things for like the Thanksgiving dinner scene, which we had 2 days to film the Thanksgiving dinner scene. So like we needed the food to also last for these 2 days. And what ended up happening was we were filming not in the Thanksgiving season. So like finding turkeys was not easy or regular, whatever. And the sizes were weird and everything got completely weird about the turkey. Where it ended up like the day before we were supposed to shoot, we have a giant frozen turkey that we can't possibly thaw and cook by the time we need it. And we have a very small cooked turkey that looks roasted, but in no way matches the other giant turkey. And now, wait, what do we do? And so we're all sitting there. It was very similar to the other conversation that we talked about the boom order. We're like, oh my God, like, how do we make this, there's no possible way to do this. And then the makeup artist actually chimes in and she's like, I have an airbrusher. I could just like airbrush the turkey to make it look like it's cooked. And we were like, I mean, I think we were kind of like, really? Like, is that really gonna look like yeah. And so she did, and it looked amazing.
And what you don't see on camera is that there's still like this icy goo underneath the turkey with like that airbrush gunk, but you don't see it on camera, but it's disgusting.
It was disgusting. It was like pooling weird juices like the whole day. like see Thomas Howell's asking us if any of the food is edible, and we're
Oh
like,
God, that was my
"You
favorite
don't
moment. He walks
know?
on set.
Maybe not." Like, duh, we
Yeah.
wouldn't recommend it.
He walks on set, he's ready to shoot this Thanksgiving scene. He wants to dive in and be a method actor and have his meal. And he goes, "Is the food edible?" And we all went, "No."
We're like,
So
that's how we ended up 18 pies later.
yeah, it was, yeah, the pie was the only edible thing.
You can also just try like some really interesting perspective angles like they did with Lord of the Rings to make like Elijah Wood look like 2 feet tall compared to like 6 foot tall Ian McKellen or something. Just get like the spacing really far off, or how they did it in Elf.
Yeah.
Yeah, just find the perfect camera angle to make the small turkey look massive.
Yeah,
It
I mean,
was
I
a-
feel like you have stuff like that on every movie. I mean, on Seaside, for example, we shot there's like a cave at Hug Point State Park on the coast, and we shot inside the cave, which was tide dependent, meaning we had to get all the camera gear, crew, actors in the right wardrobe, all of that around down a beach around a giant set of rocks inside this thing, and we only had like I forget, I mean, it was a limited number of hours. I want to say 2 to 3 hours that we had to shoot. And it was like we had a whole escape plan in case we got caught or whatever. But it was definitely literally rushing to the last minute of like running carts through waves, like coming back up the thing to try to get back around the rocks. So I just think no matter what, especially when you're doing indie film, there's so many stories like that, and that's what makes it so special, is that if you have the right people, you'll figure it out.
The cave again, cute point.
What was the name of that location again?
Hug Point State Park, it's like between Seaside and Manzanita.
I think about like
Anthony, since you this is your first time here and you have a film production company, this is a good opportunity to ask any sort of advice, or if there's a specific project you're working on, or anything in general. Did you have something you wanted to throw their way?
Currently, I was working on a documentary that I'm working on Eastern Oregon, covering an area called Fleet Lake. It's lost indigenous that honestly is not even found in the history books.
Okay.
So I'm working on doing a documentary.
Did you hear any of that from Anthony or not?
You're breaking up a little bit.
Yeah,
So Anthony over there is working on a documentary in Eastern Oregon right now about like lost indigenous tribes that have well
I
documented.
brought some of the petroglyphs. This is actually a 2
So
mile.
some of the petroglyphs and whatnot.
Part.
So
This is the civilization. You can see the outlines of what used to be there. I'm actually researching that right now.
Oh, okay.
Because there's argument that it was in northern caves, but I don't think that was true.
do you have any general advice for people who are first getting into filmmaking or thinking about doing it, or based on your experiences, what to do, or maybe more importantly, what not to do?
I mean, number one is have a really, really, really tight line producer, know your budget inside and out, and know every penny that's coming in and out. That's 100% the most important thing you can do. Secure your funding and have somebody who is on line producing that knows what they're doing. Like that. Yeah.
Can I offer the opposite advice, which I find hilarious when this is what we're offering? I think the answer is don't immediately tell yourself no. Don't say, I know I don't have that much money. I know I don't have these things. I know I don't have all these other advantages that other things have, but don't preclude yourself from that, because for me, the thing that I've done and what I feel like when I work with directors and whatever, I found myself sometimes when they know our budget is small saying, we can't do that. We absolutely can't do that. We got to come up with something else. And then me saying, take a step back. Let's actually determine we can't do it before we say that, so like I'm not saying we can, but maybe we can. And saying, the worst thing that happens is we get a no if we ask. So like whatever the ask is, whether it's a name actor or whether it's like a production designer we can't afford, or these other things, all we have to do is ask. And if we ask and we get a no, fine, we move on and we do something else and we have a different solution. But for me, I think it's always about the inclusion. Like let's not say anything's off the table until it is actually off the table. And let's include everything, because we never know what we might be able to get.
And I think those two things kind of go in concert. Like, you know what you're coming to the table with, you know what your budget is. Get creative in how you meet that. Like, figure out how you can beg, borrow, and still ask favors and do whatever. Figure out what you it's funny because my older child who's in Because We're Family is in film class now, and they're shooting something next week, and I'm so proud. Wrote the script, it's really cute. Mom, I need to order all this stuff off Amazon so that we can shoot this film. And I was like, hold your roll. Let's find out where we can get that stuff before I go and chunk down your money on Amazon. Like, just pull your creative mind out to like how you can pull in those things and save your budget for more important, interesting things. And like Alyssa said, don't be afraid never be afraid to ask. Because if you get a no, it's just a no. It's not a big deal.
Anyone else have questions?
I'm sorry, I have so many.
Keep going, it's fine.
Most of my work's been alone, but I like the fact that you guys collaborate with ever had this experience. How would you confront someone to ask if they would be interested? And do you ever bring up asking someone to be paid after the fact, or how does that work within the industry? I'm not sure if
I couldn't really understand.
I got a little bit of it. Kirk, can you
Anthony was saying that most of the projects he's worked on, he's done kind of independently. And so how do you go about collaborating with people or initiating that conversation to collaborate? And also deal with the conversation of payment involved if you're on a very finite budget.
Like if they don't want the pumpkin pie.
Yeah, if they're not willing to be paid solely in fried chicken or pumpkin pie, how do you go about, getting someone actively involved in the production?
I think that Alyssa can probably speak better to this, but I think there's two things. Like, I think passion and belief in a project go a long way to produce a project. Opening a conversation with somebody, you have to, it's kind of it's just a lot of confidence and, hey, I have this project, this is what I'm doing. And I believe in it. I don't think necessarily you need to have the money conversation out of the gate. I think the idea conversation should be the first conversation that leads. You know what I mean? Does that make sense? Yeah. And then when you get people on board and interested in what you're doing, and the idea is when you can spark some passion in them, and those other things can come up later. But I think really generally creating an excitement over what you're doing, a passion for what you're doing, will bring people to the table.
Yeah, Alyssa, no, I totally agree. I mean, 100%. I mean, my experience, literally even as of today, on a job I'm on, I'm trying to convince people to work for lower rates than they would normally work, and it's non-union, and here are the things, and like, here are the things that are good for you, bad for you, blah, blah, blah. And to me, the bottom line is always that I say to them, this is the bottom line, especially because, I'm always trying to approach people I feel are better than what I think we can afford, right? So I say, look, here's the thing. I have this project. I really think that you're the best fit for this. I adore your work. Here's why, and here's why I think you're a good fit. Here are the things I also understand. We have a very little budget. Our budget's very small. And And I am not going to be offended if this is not the right thing for you. Like that doesn't matter to me. Like all I care about is that I'm just presenting this opportunity to you to give you the first chance to say no.
Yeah.
The match.
And
is important.
that's kind of how I approach a lot of those conversations.
It's a great way.
Anyone else have questions that they want to chime in with here? I know we're kind of getting down towards the end of the evening, and again, thank you, Alyssa and Angela, so much for hanging out with us here.
Guys have like such opposite answers. That one question, and I think it really speaks to kind of the unity with the whole family. So I'm just such a huge fan of both of y'all. I think you guys are so cool and just have like the best energy. And I, as another woman in film, like it's just always really inspiring to me to like see the little filmmakers putting themselves out there. So I'm curious just to kind of hear like what y'all's favorite parts of your job and like the day-to-day working is, like what keeps you going and inspired. And it could be like a TV show that you're watching that gets you really excited to like make something else, or just like what are your kind of favorite aspects of being in the industry?
Supposedly when it came out was being filmed and what was
Sorry, I was having a hard time kind of understanding the question.
that was so good.
Sorry.
I kind of got it. I think she's asking what keeps you going and motivated as a woman in film, and what are the daily inspirations?
Yes.
It's odd because I actually don't watch a lot of film and television, like in a bad way. And I never have. It's weird. I mean, Angela knows this about me, but like I grew up in a very weird, strict conservative household. So like I didn't do any of these things, which is like odd. But what I do, the most media I consume at this point is probably podcasts. Okay, so for me, I love the auditory story and podcasts, and I listen to podcasts like all day, every day. And Angela knows this. I'm like constantly texting her, being like, "Oh my God, did you hear about this podcast?" Whatever. That's like kind of my biggest thing, but like I don't know, my inspiration for just like moving forward is always just like general life, like, and I think that I mean, even on a daily basis, I'm texting Angela and Christine about like, oh my God. I mean, today I texted Angela and Christine and I'm like, look at this weird thing. This is what happened. like we have like daily conversations about like oddities in our lives. And even the fact that we wanted this like, other weird short film about what our film festival experience was like, was because it was so odd. The whole as we went, and we were like, okay, here are all the elements that make like a story, and you could craft the elements over 4 months of making a small short film. I don't know, that's my answer, but Angela, I'm sure you have a completely different
No, it's
one.
not dissimilar. I mean, my inspiration has always been that I have a very twisted way of looking at the world. And my grandma was like this amazing Trinidadian like lady who was confined to her bed by the time she was older, and she drank Guinness all day long. I'm not kidding. She was the cutest thing. And she would always say to me, and I won't fake my bad Trini accent, but she would say in a very thick Trinidadian accent, if you can't laugh about it, you can't cry about it. And it was so inspirational to me. So like literally my mind is always this like camera in my head where everything that happens to me, everything that somebody says to me, I kind of catalog like, oh my God, that's really amusing, or oh my God, that's really heartbreaking. And how do you bring people to understand that? And my inspiration is always just, I was just born to like tell a story because it brings people together. It's the thing that makes us human. Like, so I just get inspired when my dog pees on the rug. I'm like, that's an inspiration because of how humanly I just lose my shit. I'm like, oh, funny scene in the movie, a woman loses her shit over the dog peeing on the rug for no reason. So it's just like me, every single thing in life is inspiration if you just kind of couch it that way.
I mean, I think, Angela, that brings a really good point of like, I think that's also kind of what relates like our team together, because I think that's something we all sort of share, is this like borderline of something you think is like very tragic, but at the same time, you can see or maybe eventually see the like comedic elements of it, right? Which is a huge element of Because We're Family, but like not to get super personal, but like even in the last few months, I've been dealing a lot with a grandparent in the last stages of life and Alzheimer's and all these things. And there's been a lot of elements where I've been texting Angela and Christine about being just be like, if this was not so sad that I'm crying about it, I would like be laughing about it because it's so fucking hilarious if you were just like putting
Yeah.
it in a script.
So
And like that's I think like why what our team is really about is like finding that fine line between tragedy and comedy.
100%.
And what a skill to have too. And it's so important. I mean, like for losing a parent personally and stuff, and being able to like watch a film like this and be like, oh, it's totally normal to be like in complete disarray. And like, you know, there's just so many things that are happening, and be able to have that comedic twist is such a gift. And it's such a gift to give to everyone. Like, I mean, it's just so important to be able to share that with the world. And like you were saying, Alyssa, with like a parent with or a grandparent with Alzheimer's and stuff, like we went home to visit and our grandparent was like eating her own shit from her diaper and stuff. And it's like, oh, this would be hilarious in a movie. Like, you know, like a few months, I really hope we can laugh about this. And here we are laughing about it. So like, I think it's beautiful.
True, it's true. Life is so messy, and the messier you bring it to your storytelling, the more people go, oh God, you just told the truth. And I think that's the magic of like where we can be with film, is like when people really honestly tell the truth on screen and everybody else goes, I didn't know everybody else felt that way. It's so healing. It's such a great thing.
You can tie in my personal experience that my father died in front of everyone at our family reunion.
Wow.
Oh my God.
There's a great setting for the family experience. If you're going to kill off one of them, is we would do them in my dad's hometown in Hermiston, and it was my family's scattered all over the planet, and so it was the one weekend of the entire year that everyone's actually back together again. And he just suddenly, very healthy, just suddenly dropped dead right in front of everyone.
Oh my
Oh my
God.
God, I'm so
Oh.
sorry. That's tragic.
So, yeah, but hey, you know, tragedy over time equals comedy, right? So I'm, you know, if you want to, there's a second concept to work with.
Tragic is magic.
Well, I won't give away anything that I've written, but I think it's pretty funny how the next person dies.
I agree.
So we have about 10 minutes left before we need to wrap things up. I always like to give people a final chance to chime in with either a last question or just any final thoughts. We just kind of go around, and then we give the floor to our guests for any final advice or suggestions or recommendations. So Anthony, do you have any final thoughts or question you want to throw out, or?
During the times that y'all didn't get along, was it tough to come back together, get back in character?
Did you catch that?
No, can you repeat?
So during the times when you weren't getting along on set, was it tough to get back together and back into character?
I mean, every once in a while, but it's not personal. Like, I think that's the main thing. Like, I honestly like have to say Christine is like a sibling to me 100% at this point, because we argue like siblings and we piss each other off and we pull our hair out. We just don't want to deal with each other anymore. But I think at the end of the day, it's never personal. It's never like, I don't like you and you suck. It's, I just disagree with you, or you're being petulant, or you're whatever. And do you agree? Like, I think it's like you disagree because you're so passionate about what you're doing, and you feel like you got the right idea at the right time, and it's going to make the best decision.
No, I mean, I think that's like another weird aspect of like our filmmaking style is totally that. So it's somehow we developed by the time we got to editing. So like, and this is completely abnormal, right? By the time we got to editing, Angela and Christine and Tyler and me and Eric, our DP, and Michael, our editor, are all sitting in a freaking in the Baghdad theater in Portland editing this together and all fucking arguing over everything together. But I think that's what makes our film, I think we all think that's what makes our film stronger, is that we were able to argue in a respectful. She's right. It was never, I don't like you, I'm mad at you, I hate you. None of that was ever a factor. It was like always argue over just creative integrity of the film and everybody trying to do the best thing for the film. And somehow, with all of those voices involved, we would come up with a solution everybody agreed upon, and then we move forward. And sometimes everybody won and lost in certain situations.
Yeah.
So we would just keep moving forward. Like we would just keep moving forward. And even on set, when there were like disagreements about things, like there was never anything that I remember causing a rift more than like, I don't know, half an hour.
Yeah.
No, wait, sorry, one thing. Only one thing. The door debacle. That's a whole other story.
Yeah, the great door debacle, but that lasted for a minute. But yeah, it's that we genuinely, I think at the end of the day, like each other. We enjoy spending time together. If you set us in a room together and open a bottle of wine, we're just gonna stay up all night. So we genuinely like and respect each other. Our disagreements are almost always because we're fighting for our own way, and we have to step back and kind of like get the whole picture and let somebody else in.
What was that?
Yeah, it's made me think about, it's like how do you make sure that you're all hijacking? It's like sometimes like you say, other people want to do it their way, but after a while. I mean, I think there might be, it's like, I think there's a fine balance between letting the actors what they want, but yet you making sure that you use what you want. And like you say, when it comes to editing and everything else, so boy, I don't agree with that situation. It's because it's a little bit daunting. And you know, one time I saw on YouTube that video that was like how Star Wars was saved in the edit. And that really had a big impact on me to realize just how crappy it could have been if it was done edited differently. And it just made me wonder about like how many other movies could have been saved or would have been so much better if they just had been edited better. So it's just one of those things that's like, man, that's kind of a really important yet scary, but you know, but again, you want to make sure your movie is the best it can be, but I don't know, it's like sometimes where do you draw the line between letting go a little bit and letting others that are better at those things make the final decisions?
I mean, editing is a key art form. It's just there's not enough I can say about how important that is to the process. We had major disagreements over some of the editing and like things that I wanted to fight for, things that Alyssa or Christine wanted to fight for, or Tyler had brought something up at one point about a cut that I went apoplectic about, and the entire team agreed with me, and I was like, F no, I'm not doing that. And that made a crazy like what was like a 2-week long argument because I wouldn't back down. So it's I think one of the things that gets tricky when you go to the editing process is that everybody is rhythmically different in how they tell a story, and I am a very rhythm oriented person, especially coming from stage. So for me, when I watch something, editing is music. Without music, it is a breath, a second held on a frame that's a little bit longer is something that I crave. Like, and these guys didn't always agree with me. So we had to find this middle ground where we went, okay, how are we going to put this together and still make it rhythmic and musical and have have a flow, but not disrespect each other's intuition when it comes to these moments. And like Alyssa said, we all won and we lost. Some arguments we got and we're like, okay, that was my way, and some arguments went the other person's way.
I mean, and there was even like negotiations of like, fine, if you want this, I get
I'll
this.
take that. Yeah, that definitely happened.
Guess that's kind of, I mean, are you guys still making the final edit of their considerations? Or it's a little bit the other way around?
Sometimes it really depends on the project. Like I can give an example. In LA, I was an editor for a while for music videos. And hated it because there was the director's intent. There was all of the record label folks. There was the band members. There was the band's manager. There was the band's lawyer. There were the band's girlfriends who all had their own opinions about every single. So you'd have like 20 different voices with 20 different opinions of how every single shot in the video should look. And so you're just kind of getting barked at from every direction. Sometimes editors will just tell people, let me do my job, like step back and I'll show you a cut later on. But like, I don't need someone staring over my shoulder every 3 seconds. Other times there are situations where it's very collaborative and the editor may be at the controls, but everyone's saying, hey, what if you did this? Or what if you did that? So my personal experience is it kind of depends on the project.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think our experience was pretty unique. Like, I mean, I've done a lot of what you've been talking about too. I've done nightmare commercial projects that never saw the light of day, literally because all of the clients couldn't agree on like what it should be. So I think for us, I think it was a huge factor to the testament of us all being able to work together. And then again, we want to do another project. It's like, oh, we fought through all of this stuff, but we all still like each other. At the end of the day, we're still like, hey, let's go grab a beer. Like there was never a question about any of that. It was more like really just creative differences. And and to be honest, I think we all think that's sort of what helped us make our project stronger versus weaker. And it just depends on the project. You know, sometimes you do have a very like someone with a vision and everybody's just like, this is the vision we're making and this is what we're doing. There's no questions asked. You have that. It just wasn't this was not the process with us. Yeah.
So in your, I mean, most of the things you've done, do you have the final say in the edit, or is that been not in your hands?
Was that directed at me or Angela?
Well, either one, I guess. Like, who has final cut is the question, and oftentimes that comes down to whether there's a studio back in the production, whether it's production.
I find final cut usually lies with the money.
Yeah.
Well, and the director, you know, so like
Yeah.
it's the director / the money. I mean, but yeah, I mean, oftentimes the director will cut a movie, and then if it has even whether it has a distribution deal before it's filmed or after it's filmed, sometimes they'll just recut it to what they want. Like it's very fluid. I mean, everything in filmmaking I feel like is fluid.
Well, I mean,
So
like David Lynch in Dune in '84, how he, you know, was so disappointed in the final product, and he says, and one of his last comments about it all is like, if you don't have final edit, it's not your film. And so
yeah.
that's
There's a lot of executives sometimes where some studio exec feels like, well, this film has to be 90 minutes long. Well, but it's a 2-hour story. Well, I don't care. It has to be cut to 90 minutes. And the end result makes it's an incoherent mess as a result, of the film bombs, but someone was convinced, no, it has to be short. So that sort of stuff, that's the inner politics that happens in Hollywood, but it happens.
no, I think, well, at least for Lynch's, it's been like multiple hours. And it's kind of funny that the new Dune movie, they finally did cut it in multiple segments. So I'm like, maybe they should have done that. Had that opportunity. It's just sad. Anyway, I'm just interested to see, you know, but like you say, it's where the money is. It really makes a decision. I get it.
At the end of the day, a lot of times it is where it lies. Yeah. Unless you're Quentin Tarantino and you know, you're like, I'm calling the shots, you know, it's
Right.
Nina and Lori, do you have a last question or final thoughts as we wrap up?
Yeah, I really appreciate both of you being able to take the time. I've really enjoyed listening. So if you want to answer, I do have one question, final one. If you could give advice to a younger version of yourself, what would that be?
I always love that question because there it's a simple answer for me. And I think it's what all women are going through in the world right now, is don't be defined by what other people tell you you are.
Damn it, you stole mine.
Yeah, don't, because that was a huge struggle for me. My whole life was like casting directors, agents, people, we don't know where to put you. We don't know what to do with you. You're talented, but we don't know what to do with you. You're too this, you're too that, you're whatever. I never fit into a box. And it was really challenging. My whole entire life was like, I don't check a box that people are like, we can cast her here. And it made me so insecure that I caved. And what I would tell my younger self is, if you don't check a box, make your own box. Like that's what you got to do. And I think we are in a really good position right now as women in film where we are making our own boxes. We're like, nobody's ever seen anybody like you before, because you're the only you. So be the only you, believe in that, and keep going forward.
I mean, I think in that similar vein, I mean, I think I did some of the same things in my younger life. I restricted myself, right? Where my insecurities or whatever it was were like, oh, you shouldn't do this, or you're not good enough, or you're not smart enough, or you're not any of these other things. And I would pull myself back. So I think that there's this other line of saying to yourself, you know, I can do this. I am competent and I might fail. There are gonna things I'm gonna get a no on, or there are things that I'm gonna ask that won't happen. But those aren't a reflection on me. Those are a reflection on someone else. And I think that it's taken me a long time to come past the fact that, oh, we all can do things. It's just a matter of putting yourself out there. And sometimes it does take a little bit of risk, and it's maybe even emotional or personal risk. And that's fine. And that's healthy. And then when it pays off, it feels good.
Yeah.
So it's worth it.
Nina, did you have a final question or quick thought before we wrap up?
I just had a quick thought. I just wanted to say thank you, ladies, for sharing your journeys. It's been really interesting to hear, and I love all the great advice, and I appreciate it sharing with others. Thank you.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
No, thank you for being here.
Yeah.
Cassidy?
Oh, I'm just like totally obsessed with you two. I think you guys are like, so I'll just say that, and thank you so much for joining in and talking with us. This has been definitely like one of my most enjoyed member meetings that we've ever had. So I really appreciate y'all's time.
Thank you.
So the floor is yours, Angela and Alyssa, if you have any final thoughts. Of course, Alyssa, we will look forward to you hopefully submitting your short film before our deadline this year for KIF, and we can get you back in Klamath Falls again. But any final advice or just general thoughts that you want to share to wrap up our conversation tonight?
For me, just like such gratitude, you guys. You run a really wonderful festival. You're really fans of art and artistry. You embraced us, and you gave us such confidence and such joy. We love our trophy, and we're just 100% so grateful to have been part of Klamath. And we hope that we will work with you and see you in the future. Like, just nothing but thank you.
Yeah, I mean, similar. I mean, I've been a huge fan of you guys for forever, and honestly, it's like sort of weirdly emotional, like whatever win we had this year and with the trophy. And I don't know if you guys heard any of the backstory of that, of him like creating the trophy, but it meant a lot to us. And I think that, I don't know, to us, we definitely feel a very kindred relationship with you guys. And we felt like we had this little launching pad, and it gave us enough confidence to get through the rest of the year, for sure.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, with that, we will say goodnight and thank you so much for being our guests for our February meeting. Thank you to all of our members and everyone who joined us. Thank you, Anthony, for coming out for this.
Thank you all for the wisdom.
And we will do this again next month on the third Thursday, right here at Growler Guys, and via Zoom from 6 to 8.
Awesome.
Thank you. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Bye, everybody.
See you guys soon.
Have a good night, everyone. Thank you.
Bye.
Oh, I did make a mistake to your question. I actually do know the name of the band.